Hi, I'm Nicole from Baby to Sleep, and today I'm going to talk to you about safe sleeping for babies. So we've all heard that we always put babies on their backs. Your parents will have probably told you that they were told to put you on your tummy. Their parents were probably told to put them on their sides. And over the years, there has been masses of information that has been passed down generation to generation. And we hit a stage now where everyone starts to question it and goes, well, it was fine for us back then, it must be fine now. However, times have changed, more research has been done, and it has been proven time and time again that unless there is a medical reason for not sleeping on the back, the safest place to put a baby is on their back for sleep. Okay, it's so easy to want to say it was fine for me. My mum said it was fine for me. That's fine. However, we didn't have the internet back then. There was not as much research. Things weren't as widely available, knowledge-wise. We didn't know as much. So all we can do now is go off the evidence, and the evidence says that sleeping on their backs is the safest for them, okay? The other thing is having their feet to the bottom of the cot. This is also very important to make sure they're not wriggling under the blankets. And we don't want them to risk suffocation. Things aren't so bad now because again, people tend to put babies in their sleeping bags. But again, make sure with your sleeping bags, if you're going to do this, that what you are doing with your sleeping bags is making sure they are the right size, that they are approved. And I cannot stress this enough. I made the mistake myself last year of buying a sleeping bag that I thought was right. I found out later on it wasn't actually approved, and it was actually a risk to my baby. And I will post a picture of that within the blog so you can see when I went to get her basically she was completely out at the top, and it was the right size, and she was the right size and the right weight. So make sure it is approved, it is the right tog, and it is the right size for your little one, okay? The other thing you want to consider is the room temperature. We don't want our babies to be too hot. Now, the difficulty here is all the advice, all the evidence suggests a room temperature of between 16 and 20 degrees. Realistically, is that possible? Especially if you're in a new build house or when you've got central heating. I know myself, as you can probably tell, it's a new build. The chances of that temperature ever coming below 20 degrees are pretty slim. So you just what you actually want to do at this point is just make sure that you know what your baby should be wearing for that temperature. They tend to say one extra layer than what you would wear for the temperature to keep you comfortable. Okay, so things like that. We don't want our babies to overheat. No smoking. Okay, absolutely no smoking. If you're going to co-sleep, make sure that you are following all of the guidelines, that it is a clear sleep space. This is the same for in your cot, or if you're co-sleeping, that they're still on their back, they're not sweating, because we obviously don't want them to overheat. If you're co-sleeping, you must be breastfeeding. Again, that's a very important one. No alcohol consumption as well, and no medication that's going to make you extra drowsy. Okay, these are really important when it comes to co-sleeping. So no smoking. And this goes for second-hand smoke. If a friend or a relative wants to give your baby a cuddle or something during the day, and they've been smoking, again, we want to try and avoid that if possible, for second-hand smoke. So no smoking. So on their backs, feet to the bottom of the cot, no smoking. A clear sleep space, as I was just saying before. Try and avoid any soft toys that are nearby, comforters, anything like that really. Teddies, the last thing we need, because obviously especially when they're very young, they're not going to be able to move it themselves. So if we don't want it that they're going to end up rolling into it or moving into it or turning their head and ended up suffocating. So it's really, really important, clear sleep space. This goes the same as they get a bit older with bumpers. We don't want any cot bumpers. We don't want anything that is not deemed safe. So we don't want any of these devices like the sleepy heads and all these type of things, or these nests that they have. They're not safe. They are high risk for SIDS, or should I say higher risk for SIDS, because if they start to roll and they get stuck and they can't get back, it's so important with clear sleep space, firm sleep surface, on their backs, foot to the bottom of the bed, no smoking. I can't stress this enough. Okay, if possible, breastfeed. It is proven that breastfeeding lowers the risk of SIDS as well, and to be in the same room as the parent for at least the first 6 months. Okay, what we're looking at for the other thing as well, when I was talking about co-sleeping before, we want to make sure that if you are going down the co-sleeping route, they are of a healthy weight, because babies that are more at risk of SIDS are low birth weight, premature, if the parents' alcohol intake was of a high level as well, and generally babies between sort of 2 and 4 months. So it's really important that we follow those safe sleep guidelines. There are some additional measures that they tend to recommend as well. So what I would always say is check out the Lullaby Trust page for safe sleeping for those guidelines. And basically just think about it realistically. Okay, we're not going to get everything perfect. The chances are at some point we will end up co-sleeping. Think about realistically, is it safe for me to do that, or shall I pop them in their cot, and maybe if you've got one that brings the side down, that you can sit there and you can lay next to them, but with them in their sleep space. So start to try and think logistically, have them in the room with you, but go, is it safe? Do I feel comfortable with this? It's completely natural to co-sleep. There's no higher risk of SIDS for co-sleeping if you do it safely. So many people do, because at the end of the day, you might find that you're getting a better night's sleep. Your baby's possibly getting a better night's sleep because they're close to you as well. It's good if you're breastfeeding, because that helps with those night wakes as well, especially in those early days. So we really want to try and make sure that if you're going down that co-sleeping route, that you're doing everything on a safe level. Okay, but there's no reason to not co-sleep if you're doing it safe. Something that is very hard for me to say to people, because at the end of the day, when you are really tired and you just want to get some sleep, is just to bring them into bed with you. However, and as awful as this sounds, if you are formula feeding, it is really not safe for you to bring your baby into your bed to co-sleep. And a lot of it is to do with that natural connection instinct-wise with regards to breastfeeding. So a breastfeeding mum will tend to naturally face the baby. They don't tend to roll on their baby because they can sense them, whereas it's not obviously always the case, but it's that risk factor that you've got to weigh up. Formula feeding mums can tend to they will quite happily roll maybe and have their back to their baby. So it's just something to consider. I'm not saying that you would, if you were formula feeding, that you would do that. It's to do with that natural reflex, that, to do with that connection with breastfeeding. So please, if you are formula feeding and you are going down a co-sleeping route, if you know that you shouldn't be doing that and you want to change it, please get some help, okay, to help get them into their safe sleep space. I can't stress this enough. We all love our children and we want to do our absolute best by them. And obviously we all want to get sleep, but if it's not deemed safe, please reach out to somebody and get some help to help it be safe, okay? So I think that's probably all I want to cover. Oh, there is actually one other bit that's really interesting, and it was to do with an article that was done in 2007, a study that was done by Venman, that vaccinations as well can potentially decrease the risk of SIDS by up to 50%. So it's really, really important to get those vaccinations done as well, those early vaccinations. So yeah, definitely go down that route as well. So many different things that we could talk to you about, but yeah, always check out the Lullaby Trust. Lecture League as well is really good for advice for breastfeeding and for co-sleeping. Get rid of any devices that are not safe for sleeping. Firm, flat space, sleep space, foot to the bottom of the bed, on their back. Sleeping bag, if possible, make sure it's the right temperature for the room, make sure the right sleeping bag is the right size and the right tog. You can search for, like with the brand, for example, of whatever sleeping bag it is that you've got. If you search their site, you will find a list that tells you what they should be wearing for what room temperature. So you can go down that route as well if you're just not sure. Is there anything else that I want to actually talk to you about as well? And obviously keeping your baby in the room with you for up to 6 months, well, at least 6 months. There are some recommendations now to say a year, but to be fair, most tend to sort of say about 6 months, okay? I hope you found this really, really helpful. Enjoy your baby. They are incredible little things, hard work, but utterly incredible. If you find that you're starting to struggle with sleep, by all means get in touch. Join the Baby to Sleep Village on Facebook as well, and join a community of other parents that are struggling with sleep as well, or have struggled with sleep in the past. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We've got absolutely loads and loads of videos coming your way that are going to help you on your baby's sleep journey and your child's sleep journey. So just enjoy your child, and I will see you on the next video. Bye.